Salvete discipuli, and welcome to the first video using Wheelock's Latin textbook. So this is a course, or these videos are actually designed for a high school Latin course that I teach. It's Latin 1, and it's actually, these first number of videos are actually review of Latin 1, and then we move on in new material for Latin 2, but there are also plenty of people out there who might want to learn Latin, so if you want to follow along with the lovely ladies of Mount St. Mary Academy, and if you want to learn a little Latin, purchase Wheelock's Latin and follow along on these instructional videos. We're starting with chapter 1 and we'll go all the way through chapter 40. Okay, so chapter 1 will reintroduce to my students, introduce for the first time any of you out there who are watching this video, the first and second conjugation verbs, more specifically in the present active indicative, present active imperative, and the present active infinitive. Okay? All right, so the first thing you need to know is that Latin is what is called an inflected language. What that means is that you get the function of nouns in any given sentence from the endings, okay, not necessarily from the order in which the noun falls in the sentence. That's how we do it in English. Not true in Latin. Like so many other languages, Latin also conjugates its verbs. Okay, so you need to learn how to form the 5 characteristics of the verb and all of its possibilities, and the process of doing that is called conjugating. Okay, so verbs have 5 characteristics. Okay, and switching the characteristics will switch the endings of the verbs. Verbs can be first, second, or third person. So that's the first characteristic. Second characteristic is number that can be singular or plural. Now in English, this is going to tell us the subject of these particular verbs, because any verb that is first person singular is going to have the subject I, first person plural we, second person singular you, second person plural you. But where I come from, perfectly acceptable to say y'all as a second person plural, and so sometimes I'm just going to say y'all, so you can tell the difference between a second person singular and a second person plural. Third person singular is he or she or it. Third person plural is they. Now, if you have a third person verb, that means that you could also have a subject in the sentence, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the second chapter where we actually start dealing with nouns. Okay. The third characteristic of a Latin verb is its tense, and there can be it can be one of 6 tenses. It can be present, imperfect, or future, perfect, pluperfect, or future perfect. The fourth characteristic is voice. It can be active or passive. And the fifth characteristic is mood. You can have an indicative, an imperative, or a subjunctive verb. Now, for this year, we will only be learning the indicative and the imperative, okay? We're going to leave the subjunctive till Latin 3. Most Latin verbs will have 4 principal parts. And these 4 principal parts will give you all the information you need to fully conjugate a verb. Okay, I'm giving you the example from the verb amo, I love. So the 4 principal parts of amo are amo, amare, amavi, amatum. You need each of these principal parts for a different reason, but they also are forms in and of themselves, right? So the first principal part is the first person singular present active indicative. The second principal part is the present active infinitive. The third principal part is the first person singular perfect active indicative, and the fourth principal part is the perfect passive participle. Okay? Okay. Now that you have all of that information down, the next thing you need to know about verbs is that all verbs, well, almost all verbs, pretty much all verbs, fall into one conjugation, one of the 4 possible conjugation patterns. Okay, these are patterns of endings. that verbs tend to have. There are sort of 4.5-ish conjugations, okay? Because there's a first, second, there's a third, and then there's a subset of the third called the third IO, and then there's a fourth. You can tell what conjugation a verb is in based on its second principal part, okay? If its second principal part ends in an ARE, it's first conjugation. ERE with the macron is second conjugation. Third or third IO without the macron is second principal part, ERE without the macron. Fourth conjugation is IRE. Okay, notice, and I have this nice little box here to remind you, that the only difference between a second conjugate, or identifying a second conjugation and a third conjugation verb, is the macron that's over the E. So that's a very important macron over the E in the second principal part of a second conjugation verb, okay? So conjugating is putting a verb into all of its possible persons, numbers, tenses, voices, and moods. And to do this, to conjugate, you need to have, in the present system at least, a stem plus the endings, okay? Now, you get the present stem by removing, for first and second conjugation verbs only, by removing the RE from the second principal part, and then adding the personal endings. And here are the personal endings. They are O or M for first person singular, ST, must, tis, nt. Now let me also just clarify one quick thing. The first person singular present active indicative is in fact, as we saw on the previous slide, is in fact the first principal part. So what you need to form the second and third singular, first, second, and third plural is the present stem plus these endings, okay? All right. Let's remind you of how to do this. Present active indicative is the first principal part in the first person singular, and then all of the rest of the forms use the present stem plus the personal endings, okay? How do we translate the present active indicative? Well, indicatives tell you simple statements or questions, right? And in the present, there are 3 ways that we can translate it in English. There's only one form in Latin, but 3 ways to translate it. I love, I am loving, I do love, so on and so forth. You love, you are loving, he, she, it loves or is loving, so on and so forth, okay? You can also form the imperative. The imperative is a mood that tells command, right? The singular imperative is the present stem. The plural imperative is the present stem plus the ending te. The second principal part is the present active infinitive, and second principal parts translate, or present active infinitives translate to whatever, okay? I now go through a paradigm of the first and the second conjugation. So my paradigm verb for the first conjugation, and we can tell because it has the ARE in the second principal part, is amo, amare, amawi, amatum. So if we remove the RE from the second principal part to get our present stem is ama, okay? The first person singular present active indicative is the first principal part, and then after that we need our present stem, ama, 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 plus the personal endings, st, mustus, n, right? So amo, amas, amat, amamus, amatus, amant, okay? I love, you love, she loves, or he loves. You could also translate amo, I am loving. You could also translate amo, I do love. Amatus, y'all love, or y'all are loving, or y'all do love, so on and so forth. The present imperative is the present stem, present active imperative. So ama is how you tell one person to love something. That te ending makes it plural. So amate is how you tell more than one person, command more than one person to love something. And then our second principal part is our present active infinitive, amare, to love. Now, if you know how this works for the first conjugation, you know how it works for the second, because it works the exact same way. We get our present stem by removing the RE from the second principal part. We conjugate in the present active indicative and using the same pattern we use for the first conjugation. Same for forming the present active imperative. Same for forming the present active infinitive. Okay? All right. Take good notes on this lecture. I will see you tomorrow in class, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.